we set up for the next panel discussion, I'd like to actually echo what Joe has mentioned earlier on. Isn't this friendship beyond boardrooms? It is leadership wisdom for us to actually take charge of our own lives. Okay, so I really appreciate what has been shared by Joe, and please give her another round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on, I'd like to introduce our next panelist. And okay, the first person is gonna be moderated by Vatsal, and he, of course, need not any introduction because he's an experienced moderator. But the next person I'd like to actually introduce is Siva Ganeshanandan. Sorry, I don't know whether I can pronounce it correctly, but he's the MD of Experience Platform JPAC, Middle East, Asia, and then Latin America for Accenture. So today's topic is about, this evening's topic is about leveraging AI for growth in Southeast Asian's e-commerce market. So with artificial intelligence, redefining customers' expectations and e-commerce experience, how brands can leverage this innovative technology to improve their operations in Southeast Asia. The next panelist is actually Mel Lim, and she's the head of digital experience for Adobe. And she is also a very experienced enterprise sales leader. The next person I'd like to also introduce to you, earlier on she came on to speak in the opening remarks, is Sushma, and she's the COO of Ranosys. I'd like to use this part to introduce her because we didn't have a chance to introduce her earlier on. She's passionate about people and helping people achieve their desired goal, especially for colleagues, customers, as well as partners. She thinks with her heart. So let's welcome all the four panelists up here to the stage.
Thank you guys for being here again, and it's a time for us to introduce ourselves. So today morning you heard me as Magento Association's Board of Director, but now I'm going to tell what I do actually. I'm a business coach to a lot of IT companies across Asia, and what I do is I help companies grow from few million to multi-million or do cross-border expansion. I am active in a lot of ecosystems like Magento, WordPress, Odoo, and many more. And so I represent into different ecosystems at my capacity. And Ranosys has been kind enough to give me different roles every year here. And today I'm having privilege to talk to these three special people. And I think this is the longest talk show today. And we are going to talk about future technology, which is AI, which is buzzword in the world, and everybody's wondering what to do. In today's talk, many people tried to spot that, and I think we will have more insights about AI today. But before we start, I want you guys to tell about yourself, which is not written on LinkedIn.
I think we had a long intro, so I have been in Singapore for 23 years. I moved here from the UK, but I'm originally from Sri Lanka.
That was short. You want me to tell about you? All right. The talk just before that got me a little nostalgic, and I was thinking Vatsal is going to ask this. What? Things that's not written there. So I think this event holds a very special place other than, professional and friends and all that. It holds a special place for me in my heart. It has a sentimental value because it all started, I think Magento started in 2008. I co-founded Ranosys in 2008. I gave birth to twins in 2008. So everything grew together. We evolved together. Me personally, as a mother, as a person, as a professional, e-commerce and everything evolved together. So it is really very important. Friendship with all of you, it's going to last for a very, very long time. So all I would say is what I've learned over the years is when we say learn from the past, I think it's time we need to learn from the future. That's all I've learned, and that's how I've been built. That's how I am.
That's very profound. Somebody told me in my life, your journey today is not because of what you did in the past. It is about what you're going to do in the future.
All right, my turn now. I'm trying to think about something that's not on LinkedIn. And I can tell everyone, let me think. Well, actually, just following on from what Sushma said, right? I mean, obviously, Magento has been around for many years. The interesting thing is, even though I kind of look after digital sales for Adobe in Singapore, this is actually the first Meet Magento Singapore event that I'm speaking at. I obviously have done other Meet Magentos before, but this is my first one. Which not only makes me nervous, but I think the second thing I was mentioning a little bit to the, how some of the folks were talking about just now as well, is that this is actually the first event I have 2 of my pre-sales consultants that I worked with in the audience, which gets me very nervous because you know how, right? You get all your brains and all your content from all those people, so I feel very scrutinized. But I'm very glad to be here, and it's a pleasure to be part of this, and I'm looking forward to be part of this panel.
Yeah, so let's start with the questions. So we have different side of people here. Somebody is from consulting firms, somebody is an SI, somebody is platform, and somebody is a business coach to merchants. And so we have different perspective to look at the life. Let's listen different perspective about AI. So how is AI perceived by Fortune 500 enterprises and SMEs?
So I think we tend to work on the larger end of town. Everybody right now is scrambling to find out how they can make the most out of AI. So it's perceived right now as a must learn about and a must start doing. And there are lots of people, especially in the bigger the company you go to, there are people who are doing AI. There are probably more people who are claiming to do AI, and they're doing some stuff that they're calling AI. But essentially, I think everybody has recognized this is going to be a big part of the future. I think maybe we'll get into this a bit later. I think the smarter people are thinking about how AI can make what they do better, and the not so smart, my opinion, organizations are looking at how to have AI do things cheaper but barely acceptable. Right, so that's kind of how I think it's being used or perceived right now.
I think he's absolutely spot on. Just add to it, by virtue of where we are positioned, we service customers of different levels. So enterprises or Fortune 500, they would see it as a strategic investment. Then they could also see revenue streams out of it when they implement AI. Of course, it is a must, like Siva said, that everybody is accepted. We have to go that route, everything is accepted. But larger firms would have taken that leap, would have invested in operational efficiency. They are trying to optimize, they are trying to find revenue streams out of it. They have huge data sets to see the predictive analysis. They can see the trends, they've reached there. Whereas if we talk about SMEs, they are keen. Some of them may not have the resources, may have constraints of having enough to invest, but they're investing in a form where they could see quick returns, and of course, like into chatbots, giving customer experiences and things like that. So that's all I just wanted to add on to that.
I think from the platform side of things, I think it's evident that it takes a lot to invest in AI, and really not every enterprise has a skill, has the ability to do that, right, at different stages of their growth. And I think, where it comes to where AI is, from my perspective, is that now you have platforms out there who would be able to bring this AI capabilities to you, in a way where it's easy access. You don't have to build it yourself. And, just in Adobe Commerce, for instance, right, you obviously have intelligence merchandising that's coming out. You have product recommendations. You have live search. So that as a whole, as a company, you would take, quite a bit to have to build that all by yourself. But I think where AI is today is getting more and more accessible. But I think the challenge and the opportunity here is really how can we enable the merchants to take advantage of that and know how to adopt that to the fullest.
So I echo the same. When we look at the enterprises, they look at this as capital investment for better future. And when I look at SMEs and the mid-sized agencies, they are wondering that AI is going to kill their jobs. So there are two different mindsets, but it has been always there on the world that there are two set of people, one who promote the change or part of evolution, and second one who resist. So that is a mixed bag feeling I get from the agencies, developers, and companies, which is SMEs. And when you look at enterprises, they have a long-term vision where they look at this as a capital investment. So yeah, that's great. But when we look at specifically in e-commerce, we have different flavors: wholesale, B2C, D2C. So there are some people who are marketplaces, there are some people who run their own brand, and then there are people who are doing wholesale bulk business. So do you see specific use cases where they would be benefited looking at the type of work they do, D2C, B2C, and wholesale?
I think there's AI plays a role in all of them, right? So I think when it comes to commerce, just in the experience side of things, the ability of AI to make sense of your data faster, make sense of your data with Gen AI, not just make sense of your data to a skilled data scientist, but to make sense of it to a merchandiser or to a marketer, is absolutely game-changing in terms of how you use data. That's the data about what's happening in terms of your business. There's the data about your marketing and the experience you're giving to customers. And cool stuff from Mel's company around generating content. So the amount of content you can produce to support what you're selling, both copy, imagery, all of that.
Yep.
It just makes the experience so much better for people. So AI plays a role in understanding your customer better, serving and responding to them better, and then serving in terms of while they're considering, but once they're already a customer, to service them with chatbots, as you mentioned, to be able to scale that, or to be able to augment your own services team with greater scale because of AI. So that's, whether it's B2B, B2C, it doesn't really matter, right? The types of AI usage is going to vary, but it's going to be data for all of them, it's going to be content for all of them, it's going to be insights for all of them.
That's good.
Yeah, I do agree with you. AI and commerce would remain the same. Use cases would be similar. It's the amount of focus different, B2C or D2C or wholesale would put on that. B2C, of course, a lot on experiences. There's a wealth of opportunities. They would tap AI for experiences, operational, cutting down wait times, response times, chatbots, and all that. D2C could actually leverage a lot on quicker feedback mechanism and how to use the data. I mean, they are all using that, but their focus would be largely on maybe with quicker feedback, optimizing the inventory systems. These smart routing, can help them deliver faster, better, tweak their products with the quicker feedback. All these, their focus would be largely on that. Wholesales, on the other hand, would have smarter inventory, operational focus. That would be their focus. But I guess at the end of it, utilizing the data sets, analyzing and forecasting trends, that's going to be remain. It's just that they will focus on their different areas. Some would be direct consumer experiences, some would be, operational efficiency, productivity.
That's great.
And I think what I would just add is that I think regardless of whether it's B2B, B2C, or D2C, B2B2C, for instance, right? I think there's no enterprises or businesses that wouldn't benefit from AI. But what's underlying around driving for AI is definitely personalization. And where we see, putting customer at the heart of everything around personalization really starts from B2C, D2C. And as we go along and you look at B2B, that's also an important and very potential area to look at where AI can make a bigger impact on the businesses.
Yep. I see when it comes to B2C, D2C, it is more towards customer-facing implementations and making awesome experiences and working on DXP suite. And when you talk about B2B, it is more making it efficient, cost-effective, predictive analysis of inventory, warehouse, working on the logistics solutions so that they can produce a lot more ROI. I think both have different utilities coming in. Yes.
I think we've been agreeing far too much on this stage, so let me just maybe slightly disagree with you there. I think it is time for B2B, and I think people are actually using AI for better experiences for B2B. It's harder, so it's not like a product recommendations thing, but with things like Gen AI, the conversation that the platform has with the buyer, which used to take a salesperson's knowledge to have an offline conversation, you couldn't really do that without AI without that person. So I think, that experience side is getting increasingly important for B2B. And, the smart routing and your operational stuff is as important for B2C. So I think,
that's great.
Disagreeing for getting a bit spicy.
Perfect. It's good to, when two people disagree, it means we have multiple viewpoints which are valid in the market. That's great. Now I have a next set of questions is, there are various specialized tools available. SaaS solutions are there. They are claiming big that they do awesome thing in one part and in the other part. Some people work in content, some people work in chatbot, some people work in marketing automation and commerce. So as a client advocate, Sushma, this is a question to you. As a client advocate, how do you decide what is the right fit for the client?
For AI,
Yeah.
picking an AI platform, right? Okay, yeah, thanks. It's a very interesting question. A lot of thoughts to put in place. So, first of all, I think with business first in mind, I mean, technology is not my forte, although I shouldn't say it's different from business, but yes, that's not the background I come from. So the first thing we would, when we advocate or consult or talk to any customer trying to adopt is having the objective very clear in mind. Of course, it is AI, we can do wonders, dreams would come true, but still, is it driven by a pain point in any of your internal areas? Is it excelling growth? Is it customer engagement? There has to be one that is central. I'm not saying that, we don't say that others can't be part of it, but objective has to be very clear, or the series or the priorities of the objective has to be clear. So number one, what is driving that need for getting the AI? That is one. And then, of course, we talk about scalability and flexibility and all that stuff, which should gel with their growth plan. Okay, for now, my pain point, it is driven by a pain point that I'm not able to have an efficient operation in place. Or for example, customer engagement is lacking, so I need that. With that, my roadmap is A, B, C, D, E, and whether that platform will be able to scale with what you're at least 2, 3 years, 4 years, because beyond that, technology evolves. We should not think 10 years down the road. It's too far away. Then, of course, ROI. Before we tap onto it, we should be able to know what will we have as matrices for a ROI. Is it conversion rate? Is it going to be X% increase in my, whether you maintain efficiency, or is it going to be something else? So we need to define, they should be able to define. How will you measure the ROI after that? You can say, oh, I want this person. What will be the measure of it? And of course, TCO and all that. So apart from, there are peripheral things that, like I said, technology plays a place, safety, scalability, integrations, all these, I consider that as part of technology aspects. Of course, there are business aspects as well. But these are very, very key from where I see that while adoption, we must be very clear of, or we must talk and spend time on these central areas to begin with.
That's great. You touched upon some areas like matrices of success and the TCO. You are part of one of the largest consulting firms on the earth. So when the TCOs are very high for enterprises, I think many SIs and the agencies are there. They must be convincing their clients. So what are the key matrices they should keep in mind? Or there are a lot of brand owners are here. So what are the key matrices they should keep in mind while making a decision on investing into AI?
So having been here for a couple of years, I spent probably 20 years on the platform side, right? And as much as I knew, I didn't really feel in my bones how much the total cost of ownership is. Because when you think about, there's a technology, there's the implementation cost,
Correct.
But then there's the organizational cost of people's time, their training, but like they're running it. And a lot of what happens, especially with the sort of the shiny new toy kind of approach, is you get it, and there's an ROI, that it costs this much, implementation, but then people don't have the bandwidth, the time to actually make the most out of those things. So I think that's the overarching statement. The key has got to be how much does it impact, depending on where you are in the organization. Obviously, revenue, but somewhere along the line, you'd be asked about the bottom line as well. So like all those other metrics that you look at in terms of the funnel is important, but they're KPIs, but not what you're actually, they're indicators, but not what you're actually measuring against. And is this effort, the total cost of ownership, going to add up to more than what you need to be? And then in terms of which tools you go to, it is really very, very much dependent on where you are on your journey and what can move the dial. Right, so you may start off, if I started off today, business, I want to take sort of product name, I may have started on Google Analytics. It will serve my purpose until I get to a certain point, then okay, I need that little bit more, then it's worth me investing in Adobe Analytics. And then, okay, I start with this, then I may have like the Adobe suite, but then there's these other tools that are not part of the Adobe suite yet. Is it worth me having that? At a point, am I doing everything I can on my other platform? Am I getting the most out of everything else before I look at this new thing? And that assessing the total cost of adding something. And the biggest challenge we see is people not making the most out of what you're already doing and trying to solve it by doing some new thing over there.
Okay.
Right? So you can't you can't sort of not have a good habit and do something else to kind of make up for when you really need to fix your other habit. Like I can go to the gym, but I probably should eat less first. So that kind of thing.
Yeah. This is an interesting viewpoint always CFOs have while sanctioning this budget, that you are not making enough with the current tax solution and you want to invest in the new one. Yeah. Mail, it is for you that, can you share an example where Adobe Sensi, which is powered with AI, benefited maybe a small and medium-sized enterprises in the Southeast Asia? So people here, they can say, okay, it's good and we should opt for it.
Yeah, no, I think, as mentioned earlier, right, I mean, there's really no enterprises of any sizes which would not benefit from AI and innovations in that way. But I think, one of the things when we talked about TCO, right, and really in enterprises which are like SMEs, it gets a bit more cost sensitive, right? Because you don't want to start a second project when your first project hasn't gone live yet, and it's just adding costs, and everything is just under scrutiny, right? So I think that's where it's important also to kind of make sure that, when you kind of look at platforms, what are some of the things which are important and as part of the bundle itself, as opposed to buying multiple point solutions. Then you start having to spin different plates, as opposed to maybe spinning one or two key plates, but you get most of it out of that, right? So I think that's kind of where I see SMEs, if you're able to find a right platform, and I do agree, some platforms you probably have to start small until you get Adobe, but I think the primary idea here is getting something that's fit for purpose, right? And if I think about it just in relation to commerce, for instance, in this room. If you look at SMEs in Southeast Asia, which is all sizes and all markets in Southeast Asia, if you think about the likes of, say, even like maybe Wine Connection, right? Or people, retailers like Royal Selangor. These are people who have been on Adobe Commerce, and they've leveraged this AI part around live search, around kind of merchandising to be able to get to some of their end goals, as opposed to buying different platforms to try to achieve the same. So I think from my perspective, that's where SMEs would get to benefit as well if they look at what they can get from a bundled part of an offering, as opposed to buying multiple things to get to a single goal.
So merchants and brand owners, I think these are some promising examples in front of us that it says that we should invest in the tech to leverage for the future.
So if I can add, just on SMEs, one thing I didn't mention to that for your first or second question is, AI gives the ability for somebody much smaller to act like somebody a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Some of those moats that big enterprises have in terms of scale, some of that scale can be achieved with AI.
Faster.
So like the big enterprise, what they're thinking about it. The other thing I didn't mention is they are scared of some small organization with AI using a smart way.
That's good.
To eating their lunch. So if you're an SME, you probably So you have a challenge, which is you don't have the depths of data that a large enterprise has, where you may need to borrow that, hire that, work with platforms, etc. But it does level the playing field, probably even more than the internet did.
I 100% agree to you. I come from India, and I can see a lot of D2C brands, specifically in the category called fashion and healthcare. They are giving tough time to the big brands.
I was actually, I think last Wednesday I was on a panel with Good Glam in India, which is basically a disruptive cosmetics company, and they're doing amazing stuff with data.
That's great. Yeah, and it is an extended question to you that as AI, ChatGPT, everything is now massified. When you say it was earlier classified, now it is available to the mass. I know people have a lot of economical, or you can say different tools available. So when you look at, I have been listening Adobe Sensei since 4 years now. So do you think it has shifted anything into the market when it comes to, I would say, usage of AI at the mass level, or at the larger scale?
Well, I think Sensei sounds like it's been around a lot more than ChatGPT in terms of length, but it's been around for a while now.
Yeah, 4 years.
But but the thing is that I think where we are at a really interesting juncture for Adobe business, right? Is that earlier this year when we announced about Gen AI, that really kind of brings it even upstream in terms of content creation. How do you bring that through for AI as well? And the thing is that today, right, when we kind of think about it in Adobe, it's not something new because we've been talking about Sensei for a number of years now. But now with Gen AI, it's got even deeper into the whole, kind of content supply chain. How do you make it easier from a creation, kind of co-pilot perspective for your marketeers to make it more efficient? Because ultimately, it's all driving towards, how do you improve your revenue, improve your conversion, improve your bottom line? And it's got a little bit more compelling with the launch of Firefly.
It is actually killing jobs of consultants like me, because it is recommending everything on its own.
Well, which is why I said co-pilot. It will never be the sole pilot.
I understand.
It can never replace you, surely.
Yeah, I understand. But the pilot of the company CEO, co-pilot is the strategist. So they are cute, AI is replacing us. Oh, that's fine. I think it's a good question. And then when we talk about some concerns, so I see there are people who are opposing acceptance of AI. They have different varied concerns. I just went through on internet and read a couple of things. So when you talk about where AI can go wrong, so there are some concerns around privacy. Any of you want to answer on that? Do you think AI is an intruder to privacy?
So I don't think AI is an intruder to privacy as a thing. The people who get the data to feed the AI need to be careful about what data they're feeding AI with. So governance of the training set is important.
Yeah.
And there's two bits of responsibility there. One is you as somebody who's the source of that data, if it's your customer's data, if it's your operation data, etc. There's need to have governance around that. But then who are you getting that? Because if you're borrowing or renting training from elsewhere, where's that training gone into? This is not about privacy, but I think Debbie's done a good job on the content side in terms of the copyright infringement. So there's been a lot of suing going on.
Right.
So I think everyone's played with Midjourney and DALL-E type tools. Frankly, sorry Mel, but it's more powerful than Firefly. But I can't use that commercially on my commerce site because it's somebody else's copyright.
Okay.
Right? So getting the training set, making sure people are paid accurately. There's a lot of bias built into it. I think there's been a lot of cases of if you ask for certain types of roles or characters, you get certain genders and races and all that kind of stuff. So being able to make sure you manage that training set properly, the data is governed properly in terms of how it's being used for training with permission.
Yeah.
That's the important.
Yeah.
AI itself, it's going to do what it does.
It
right?
becomes tricky when you are dealing in a country where there are a lot of GDPR compliance is coming in. Fun part, I hate AI because of one reason. I was talking to my wife about jewelry. She was insisting me I want to buy, and I think this phone listens to it. And suddenly advertisements of buying jewelry started popping up on her Insta. I said, screw AI.
That was happening before Gen AI. That's just listening and an algorithm. It's very, you can put that in.
Okay, and sometimes for me it was inappropriate or inaccurate recommendation on her phone. So sometimes
That's what you're claiming.
yeah, so sometimes it happens that for companies who are just starting up and they are building up the data and they don't have enough data. So in that case, I have seen the use cases where inappropriate or inaccurate recommendations coming up without knowing customers' buying journey. And that scale of SMEs, CDPs are, CJMs are never implemented, or CDPs are a nightmare they have. So when you don't have enough data, so somewhere AI brings inaccurate recommendations. So, yeah. But there is an interesting point here. I was talking about the use case of low data, but there is also a case where the bias of the past data available. Do you think bias of past data kills the potential of recommending better and bigger product on sale?
Yeah, I would just add that there's a little bit of the whole governance layer that's really important, right? I mean, in Adobe's case, right, with Firefly, it's designed to be commercially safe in that way. When we talk about how, when you have brands, you want to make sure like your logos and your assets are the same whenever, even if you do, AI on it, right? It's got some fundamental stuff which has to be true to the brand voice and what you do with that. So I think that governance part is important. In terms of making it scalable in that way, but I do feel that with this whole, it's a bit of the garbage in, garbage out, as I mentioned earlier as well. Like if you don't actually look at the type of data that goes in, it's just like a data warehouse, right? What comes out is also limiting in terms of what you can achieve.
I get it. And when we deal with the data, it moves with garbage in, garbage out. So if data is not stored properly with the right tagging, and then it goes.
Yeah, I also just want to add, we need to be cautious of the spikes sometimes. Like during COVID times, everyone's data was different. So we need to be aware if there is an incident causing a spike or a dip, it needs to be, like she said, there has to be proper governance. So these kind of things then we can't blame the AI.
Yeah, that's what. So I have heard a human tendency. They trust their dashboard more, and what dashboard say, they take decisions on auto mode. So AI cannot replace human intelligence here. So when you have abnormal use cases, you have to trust your strategy and not AI, because it may go wrong. Okay, but when it comes to, say, most of the e-commerce side are selling products, but when it comes to selling services online, sometimes it lacks human touch. In my opinion, recently I was dealing with Kotak Mahindra Bank of India, or I was talking to Airtel, and then suddenly they removed the call support, and then there is a chatbot which is going to talk to me called Kia. Now she doesn't understand what I'm talking to, and she keeps on responding different answers. So in that case, it adds some frustrations to user. So how we can avoid that?
I think I have a classic recent case to what you said. Very simple thing. I was going to see a chiropractor for a tennis elbow. Sounds cool to say, right? So, and then he said, okay, there's a masseur and you can book this massage, it'll help. I was very happily going, okay, I'll book online, I know the name of the person. Suddenly this thing pops up, I can help you. I'm like, all right, let's see. And then you looking for deep tissue massage, A, B, C, D. And I'm like, I don't know what all these things are. Like, can you tell me more? And then it just gives me link of Google. After spending 10 minutes, I just didn't book it. They lost it. If you are having a chatbot for me to ask, it can refer, but something that only a human should explain, it shouldn't have popped up in the first place asking that, oh, do you need me to tell you this? No, I don't. It's something that I would want an expert to tell me what is the impact on me, what is the anatomy, that person should be telling me. So I guess, like she also said, it's a co-pilot. It's not to remove that human touch. It is to complement those areas which can be repetitively done by a bot, only there, not where there is consulting or understanding, and there has to be human touch in these cases. So I'm a fan of having that human touch in place in such cases.
It goes back to what I said. There is going to be a battle inside all of your companies where people want to use AI to save money.
Yep.
Let's put that bot. We can have this person that's answering the phone can do 2 more massages a week. We can make whatever. And you, or we, need to be the people advocating for, actually, if we had AI to complement, maybe we start with that question, but there's always a talk to a person option. Or the AI is actually telling them as while they're talking to you, they've got some connection back to the whatever, right? So there's a massive usage for AI to make things better. Unfortunately, what we're seeing so far is more on the save cost. People want to use it to, and the experience gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
But that's okay for your business because it means when you use it to make it better, you will stand out more, right? So I think our kind of big push internally is this co-pilot idea to say AI is very powerful. I mean, think about it from an Accenture point of view. If everyone just went, okay, let's just automate everything, there's no need for a consulting or an SI, right? So we're about making your experience stand out better so you can differentiate in the market against people trying to do it for cheap or worse. Yeah. That's
good. Our last question to all of you. How do you see AI affecting commerce in coming years, say maybe some years down the line?
I think a simple answer would be, Vatsal, that a place which we can't think of, a situation which we can't think of, but we still have to. I remember Zain sitting in one of these chairs and saying that I envision drones doing the deliveries, like by that time, I think 2 years back, just some experiments had happened, but I guess in 3 to 5 years, that should be the mainstream, I guess. This is one of the things that drone deliveries would be common. Like what Arjun, one of my colleagues said, hey Siri, can you book Mercedes for me? Or things like that, which we were talking about having the product search is more efficient. It should be by speech recognition rather than me typing and opening an app and it should recognize and tell me the search results. Or things like, AI sensing emotion and giving me product recommendations, which is an experiment at this stage, but I guess 2, 3 years, 5 years down the road, they would be, while I'm buying, they would sense the emotion and then come up with product recommendations, that level of experience, wherein what we are talking experience today, rich experience, would be a given, and these are the trends that will come up. That's how far I can think, but I'm sure there'll be more.
I think, and again, this is, we don't know, the things that we buy that are chores, I think it would understand us well enough that I don't have to, keep buying milk and, these things. My groceries, most of my things are going to sense what's happening in my fridge, what's going to happen in my house, what's happening with my health, etc. And it's just going to say confirm or find a way to just make that happen. But it would also aid the way in which I do commerce for pleasure. The things that I want to spend time looking at, that experience I think can get a lot richer. I'll be able to connect with, human aided, but you can scale out a human aided AI kind of person that can my personal shopper that can guide me for different types of things. I can build myself some sort of an avatar essentially that can go out and do a bunch of shopping with so my bot will go with the merchant's bot, go on a shopping trip, and then come back and show me, hey, what do you think about these things? And I'll be able to have a lot of fun. So I think there's two sides. There's the making the boring automatic and making the fun more fun than ever.
I can think if it is combined with metaverse, it will be more fun and interesting.
Yeah, depends what you mean by the metaverse, right?
Think of a use case that you are virtually moving to a shop and talking to a person based on your race. Other salesperson appears look-alike person, then they talk in your language, and then you buy a product.
It again depends on your definition of metaverse, but yeah. So AR is going to be a big part of that. Avatars are going to be a part of that. So yes.
Okay, you want to add something?
Yeah, I would just probably add, just in terms of a narrower focus on where I see is the North Star for AI in commerce, right? Is that today, whatever you do on personalization, you still have to train the engine, right? And it still takes time, right? Depending on the data that you put in, and takes time to learn and get better. If we could get it to a stage where all this is actually real time, right? By the time I get to a shopping page, once I click a hoodie, I click, gloves, you immediately know that I'm actually looking for ski wear, for instance, things like that, right? It gets that real time, then that's where experience goes to the next level. That's what I'm thinking for in terms of commerce, in terms of AI in commerce, because that's kind of, that's where, instinctively, right, experience just becomes different.
Yes, I can connect to what you're saying, that I booked a ticket of Singapore, say 3 months back, and suddenly I started getting places to visit, things to buy, things to do in Singapore, and suddenly those things started coming on my screen, and it is influencing my buying as well. So it is also predicting what I'm going to do in the future.
But Mel, that's not the future, that's today, isn't it?
It is today, but I'm saying, I think that's what I think RV says, tomorrow, today. Okay, good. So for me, I would say last year on the same, but on the different stage, I said we all are evolving, and if we don't evolve, dinosaurs die and lizards stay. And if we don't evolve with the time, we die. So.
Can we end on a different note?
Yeah, I would be very straight and honest here. And last year also, I told a lot of agencies, and today morning, many people said, "You are a cool guy. Why you are sounding a bit depressing in the morning in opening remarks?" And then, dying is good. So people said, okay, what's happening with Magento and so on. So I said, with the time we evolve, one fine day we used to code custom PHP e-commerce. I'm going back in 2004-05, I was platform manager. Then 2007-08, my boss threw a thing called Magento beta release. I lived up to that, and then I got into consulting. Now we have multiple platforms, composable, omni-channel, a lot of things. And then we keep on evolving with the times. I think AI is here and going to stay, and all the people who are here, there is no juice in resisting. I think I always end up saying one line at the end in all my talks: good is not good when better is possible. And if AI is bringing better future, we should embrace it. I hope I'm not sounding boring right now. So thank you. We can have a couple of questions from the audience, because you have free advice from Accenture right now. We have somebody who is the platform head, and somebody is in the SI. So anybody wants to ask anything? Good. So thank you guys for listening us, and thank you guys for giving candid answers. We'll load the talk. Thank you.
Thank you.